What's up, friends? Happy December. That's right, it is the tail end of 2023, and well, just like 2022, 2021, and 2020, it's been a crazy year. Not only crazy in general, but the real estate market has been crazy. In today's video, I want to tell you a little bit about what I expect we might see with regard to the real estate market in 2024. Now, just like last year, I gave my predictions and some of them were relatively accurate. If you didn't see that video, feel free to go back and check that video out. This year, again, I'm giving you my opinion. I don't hold a crystal ball, but after being in the industry for over 20 years, I feel as though I know a thing or two and know what to look at in order to gauge what the real estate market might look like. So in this video, we're gonna go over a few things. We're gonna talk a little bit about what I expect to see when it comes to the mortgage industry. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what types of loans we might see in 2024, talk a little bit about my predictions when it comes to interest rates and things along those lines, right? With regards to real estate, we're gonna talk a little bit about what I expect to see with property values, what I expect to see when it comes to days on market or how long it takes for someone to sell their home. We'll also talk a little bit about the overall inventory and what I expect to see when it comes to whether or not we'll see more or less housing for sale. And we're even going to talk a little bit about the foreclosure market or my expectations when it comes to distressed sales. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you haven't done so already, don't know what you're waiting for, but go ahead and hit that red button because that, my friends, is your best way to stay informed. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit that bell because that's how you'll be notified when I post content that might answer some of the real estate questions that you currently are seeking answers to. So let's start talking a little bit about the financing side of things and what we might see when it comes to the mortgage industry. So the big elephant in the room when it comes to mortgages right now happens to be the mortgage rates. Towards the tail end of the summer into September, mortgage rates they skyrocketed. We saw rates into the 8s. And then they kind of teetered around and went down and back up and down. Theoretically, at the end of the day, what I anticipate we'll see in 2024 is I do think that we will see rates come down. Now, if I had to take an educated guess, my guess is that we'll see rates come down to somewhere in the low to mid 6s. All speculation, but what I think is we'll see rates somewhere around 6.25, maybe 6.5 into 2024. But if we do see rates drop, that usually comes at an expense. Now, I don't want to go deep into the weeds when it comes to politics because this is not a political channel. But what I will say is that we are going into an election year. And when we go into an election year, things tend to unfold a little bit differently. Theoretically, no one likes to rock the boat. So I don't think we're going to see interest rates jump because of that. I also think that as unemployment increases, interest rates will go down. That's pretty much the way that they combat inflation, which is another elephant in the room. Everything that we pay for costs us more today. But when the interest rates come down, there usually is a counterbalance with the unemployment rate. So as unemployment numbers go up, the interest rates go down, and then vice versa. So who knows what we'll see, but again, if rates go down, it's gonna come at a cost. I also think that we will see more FHA loans come back into the equation. Now, the crazy thing is I ran some numbers and I looked at the last few years. In 2022, there were roughly 10,000 real estate transactions here in Montgomery County, and only 5% of them was contingent upon FHA financing. Now, the year prior, in 2021, there were about 12,000 real estate transactions and 6% of them were FHA. Now, this year in 2023, we're still right around that 5% that we saw last year. But the crazy thing is if you were to go back to 2019, and the reason I'm going back to 2019 is because that's the last year we conducted real estate from January to December without some type of a shutdown or things just not being normal. And during 2019, of the 11,000 real estate transactions here in Montgomery County, 11.4 of them were contingent upon FHA financing, which is twice the amount that we've seen over the last few years. So don't get me wrong, I don't think that in 2024 we're going to get to 11% FHA transactions. I don't even think we're going to get to 10%, but ultimately we're going to see more FHA transactions come back into the equation. And the reason for that is because FHA is actually more cost effective. It's a lower interest rate for an FHA loan than for a 30-year FHA loan than there is for the most part, a 30-year conventional loan. Now, over the last few years, we didn't see many consumers use FHA because, well, FHA also can add some additional layers or prerequisites that stand between the transaction and the finish line. When buyers were trying to make it easy for sellers to accept their offer and remove as many conditions as possible, FHA became a dying product simply because FHA would potentially require some repairs. So because of that, I think we will see more FHA financing. I also think that we're going to see more creative financing, if you even want to call it that. I think we're going to see more adjustable rate mortgages. I think we're going to see more buy downs. So 2-1 buy downs, 3-2-1 buy downs. If you're not familiar with what they are, I can educate you on those, but that's not what this video is about. I also think we will see more people attempt to assume assumable mortgages. If you have an FHA mortgage with an attractive interest rate, you may want to find out if that mortgage is assumable because a buyer could assume that mortgage at a lower interest and then take out a second mortgage to theoretically buy your property from you. So again, that's a whole nother story, but something that could be done. And regarding mortgages, this is actually pretty scary, but a few mortgage companies, one that comes to mind is Carrington Home Loans, has actually announced that they are going to be offering a 40-year mortgage. That's right, a 40-year mortgage. Now, 30-year mortgage, to some, sounds crazy. If you talk to people in other countries, a 30-year mortgage just sounds ridiculous. And 30-year mortgages have not been around forever. If I'm not mistaken, I think they were actually introduced in the 60s. But a 40-year mortgage is something completely different, something we've never seen before, and in my opinion, probably relatively predatory, and not a vehicle that I would suggest many people consider. But again, when it comes to the mortgage industry, these are some of the things that we will potentially see in 2024. With regards to inventory, well, the last 2 years, we have not had much inventory, which ultimately, that's what created such a frenzy in the real estate market. Ultimately, there's always going to be buyers in the market, right? Because again, you have buyers who have to buy. Maybe it's because of divorce, diapers, diploma, death, whatever those 5 Ds are, right? And when you're in a real estate market where there isn't enough inventory to even supply the demand for the people who have to move, and then you factor in that there are people who want to move, well, it creates this bidding war, this frenzy where people are all fighting over the same property. But now in 2024, and actually towards the tail end of this year, we're already starting to see inventory increase in Montgomery County. About a year ago, there was roughly 1 month of inventory in Montgomery County. Now, what that means is if a new property wasn't listed within Montgomery County, based off of the rate home purchases are going, it would take us 1 month or less than to exhaust all of those available homes. Okay, so right now in December, I just ran these numbers, we're much closer to 2 months of inventory. In a normal market, somewhere between 5 and 6 months of inventory. That's when it's pretty much an equal playing field for both buyer and seller. So we're still pretty far off of that. But in 2024, I do think that we will see more inventory. I think we will see that number in Montgomery County and across other areas here in Pennsylvania go from 2, 3, maybe even closer to 4 months of inventory. Again, right now, Montgomery County, we're around 1.8. So if we can get another month's inventory, that would definitely help buyers out. With that said, the more inventory we have, the less power sellers have. Why? Because there's more options for buyers to choose from. So sellers, unfortunately, that may not be what you want to hear, but it is the reality of things. Buyers will have more options moving forward, and your home, sellers will probably sit on the market a little bit longer in 2024 as well, as that demand from buyers continues to diminish. Interest rates, if they do drop and we get into those 5 or 6s, that will definitely spark more interest or buyer demand. But I do think that we are going to see homes sit on the market much longer in 2024 than they have over the previous years. And to kind of give you an idea of what the days on market looked like over the last few years, well, in 2021, the average days on market was 22 days. Now, keep in mind, days on market is the time that it takes from when you list your home as available for consumers to look at and make offers on to the time that you accept an offer in writing. So day one is when you start showing the property, and then the last day would be the day that you accept and come to contractual terms. So 22 days in 2021. In 2022, that number dropped to 19 days on market. And then this year, that number jumped back up to 21. But if you were to compare that to pre-pandemic numbers going back to 2019, the average days on market were 43 days on market. So I think this year we're going to be somewhere in between. I would probably assume or estimate that we're going to be right around 35 days on market on average in 2024. And now that we've talked a little bit about demand, well, I also think that although demand is diminishing slightly, I don't think that we're going to see home values diminish. As a matter of fact, I think that home values will continue to appreciate. Most of the sources out there, even the people who are way smarter than me, assume the same. And that has a lot to do with the fact that there isn't enough supply to meet the demand. Over the last few years, we saw appreciation at record levels. In some markets, it was 10, 15% year over year appreciation, and maybe even more than that in some smaller pockets throughout the country. But what I think that we're going to see in 2024, especially here in the Montgomery County area, I think we're going to see somewhere between 3, 4, maybe 3 and 4% appreciation year over year in 2024. So that's still good. As a matter of fact, that's better than your savings account. I'll say that much. So your home is still a solid investment, but the days of seeing 10, 15% return on your property value, well, it's definitely not going to be this year. And then the last thing I want to talk about is my prediction when it comes to foreclosures or distressed sales. I put a lot of content out around foreclosures because it is something that I specialize in. I do represent financial institutions, i.e., loan servicers and investors when it comes to the disposition of their REO properties. I assist those clients in finding new end users for properties once they are foreclosed. So the foreclosure market is something that I do pay attention to. Now, what I expect or anticipate to see in 2024 is I expect to see more foreclosure starts. Now, please understand that that doesn't mean that I think that people are going to lose their home in volume or anything like we saw in 2008, 2009, anywhere around those years, okay? A foreclosure start is nothing more than the servicer, the bank saying, hey, homeowner, you've missed enough payments. At this point, we are going to take your loan from delinquent and we're going to put it in foreclosure status, meaning unless you pay us the entire balance that you that's owed, we're going to move forward with the foreclosure process and attempt to secure our asset. Now, my gut is when that happens and those homeowners are notified that their home is in foreclosure, because there's so much equity, I think that those homeowners are going to exercise options such as selling the property or maybe finding a way to sell the property to someone who's going to let them rent it back. But at the end of the day, with inflation being out of control, unemployment numbers starting to go up, credit card debt at an all-time high, auto loan delinquencies at an all-time high, and student loan debt now needing to be repaid, let's just face it, people are going to have some hard times. And unfortunately, they will need to consider tapping into the equity in the property or selling. So the banks may start the foreclosure proceedings, but I think consumers now have more options than they had before due to equity and a pretty strong buyer market or demand to buy a home. So those are my predictions for 2024. Again, I don't hold a crystal ball, so don't beat me up, but let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think we will see in the real estate market, not only here in Pennsylvania, but let me know if you're in a different market. Let me know what you think you're going to see in your market. Once again, I'm Chris Nelson, the team lead of the Nelson Home Group, helping buyers and sellers here in the Pennsylvania area. And if you are thinking about buying a home, there's a free guide for you to download. Just click the link, fill out the information, and it is your guide for free. And with all of that being said, take care.